Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I think you start. You can. Okay, let me unmute you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, you should all see my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Fine, I'll mute you because we don't want any noise. And if you have a question, you have an icon that says raise your hand and I will accept your question, okay? So I'll mute you for now, but you know if you want to ask a question.
Hi, doctor.
Hello. Okay, I'm not going to mute you so that if you have a question, you can ask directly. Okay, now what will we do today is that we will explain the core for the lesson, cell structure or organization of the organism. If you noticed, it is either called cell structure or organization of the organism. I did send you the PowerPoint, and if you received the notes, then you will notice that it is a replica of your notes, okay? We did talk about animals and plants and bacteria in class. So we will revise all that and all the organelles, but I want to start directly talking about, we will go back to all this. I want to start directly talking about the specialized cells, okay? This page on the slide, it is slide 20, and this is exactly there in your notes. Now we want to talk about producing new cells in your body and specialized cells. Now, to cut a long story short, we will be talking here specifically, so you don't get lost, we will be talking about animal cells, not plant cells. Because we know that plant cells, all of them, they have a rectangular shape. They all have this same shape. They are rectangular. But animal cells are a different story. Animal cells, when they are first produced, they are all circular. That is why when we come to draw an animal cell, we always use the shape of a circle. But they do not stay a circle. Animal cells, they change in shape because they become specialized. What does this mean? Animal cells, they go through a stage of maturation. In biology, it is called differentiation. Differentiation. For example, a cell is produced in your body, and then this cell will go through a stage of maturity or differentiation, and it will become a specialized red blood cell, or it will become a nerve cell, or it will become a muscle cell, or it will become a skin cell. And every cell has a different shape and has different features, and it becomes very specialized in its function. Okay, I want you to understand the process. For example, let's talk a little bit about the red blood cell. The red blood cell looks like this. It is biconcave, and it has one particular function. Who knows what is the function of the red blood cell? Yes.
Carries oxygen.
Yes, it carries oxygen. Red blood cell, it has only one function. It carries oxygen, which is a very important function. And it is very good at this function. It is very good at carrying oxygen. It cannot do anything else. So this red blood cell in biology, we describe it as being a specialized cell. Specialized means it has the shape and it has the organelles and it has the features that makes it very good at its job. That is why we call this cell specialized. It only does one thing. It only carries oxygen. For example, I only teach biology. Why don't I teach physics? Why don't I teach math? Why am I specialized in teaching biology? Because what did I study when I was a student? Because I studied biology, because I graduated from medical school. I cannot teach physics. I cannot teach French. I am not specialized in those subjects because I did not study them. The same idea. So what we'll be talking about, we will be talking about animal cells and how they are specialized. First, to understand specialization, you need to know that cells in your body. Gamila, you have a question, my dear? Gamila? Okay. Now, to understand things, cells in your body, they are first produced and they are called stem cells. They are unspecialized. And then they go through a phase of differentiation, okay, or a phase of of specialization in which they become adapted. What does the word adapted mean? Means that they become special or they become very good at carrying out a particular function. Why? Because their shape will change and they will have special structures and special organelles that will make them adapted. So in case you are asked about differentiation, how cells become differentiated, you have to mention two things. You have to say that the cells will have special shapes that will make them adapted, that the cells will have special structures that will help them become specialized or adapted. I hope this is clear, okay? Now let's take examples. The first example we will study are ciliated cells. Let me write the word down. Cells that have cilia. Ciliated cells. Like you can see in this picture, these are cells that have microscopic hairs like this. These microscopic hairs, like you can see here, are called cilia. And these cells are found in so many different places in your body, especially in your respiratory system, like you see in the picture. Can you guess what is the function of those ciliated cells? Yes, Dalia. You are unmuted. You can speak. Hello, Dalia.
Ciliated cells are needed to catch and things or increase the surface area.
Okay. Cilia.
To sweep away dust.
To sweep away dust. Exactly. This is exactly the question, the answer I was looking for. Let me get you another picture to show you how a ciliated cell looks like. Okay. This is a nice picture here. It should be moving. Yeah. Yeah. These are ciliated cells. Ciliated cells mean what? Mean that they have microscopic hairs like you can see. If you want to draw them while you're studying, you will draw a rectangular cell that has a nucleus and all the other organelles that we studied. At one end, this ciliated cell has microscopic hairs called cilia. Now, these cells are found in your nose, they're found in your throat, okay, mainly in your respiratory system. If this is your throat, okay, the ciliated cells are oriented like this with cilia, microscopic hairs. Now, they are important. Why? Because when you breathe air, unfortunately, this air is full of dust and particles and very dirty stuff. The air is not clean. This cilia, as you can see, like your friend said, it is sweeping away all the dust particles. Away from what? This ciliated cell is protecting what?
Lungs.
Exactly. So the ciliated cells are sweeping away all the dust particles and the bacteria away from the lungs because we want to protect the lungs. We don't want to inhale all that because it will cause lung infection. So this is a specialized cell. It is specialized in sweeping. Why is it very good in sweeping? Because it has those cilia. It has those structures that it uses in the sweeping process. Okay, now going back to the picture, this is a cell that helps with the process or with the function of the ciliated cell. It is called the goblet cell. This white cell is called the goblet cell. Who remembers what is the function of the goblet cell? We took it last year.
Making mucus?
Yes, you are correct. Goblet cell. Also, these goblet cells are found in your nose and your throat and your respiratory system. And the goblet cells, they secrete lots of mucus. And this mucus is the gluey material that will trap the dust and the particles. So the goblet cell and the ciliated cell, they work together. The goblet cell releases mucus to trap the dust and the bacteria, and the ciliated cell, it sweeps this mucus away from the lungs, so we protect from lung infection. Yes, Nariman, you have a question?
I don't understand the goblet cell.
Okay, let me explain it again. Look, my dear, maybe my drawing will be easier. This is your throat, okay? This is as if you are lying down, and you have cells lining your throat that have microscopic hairs called ciliated cells. And in between those ciliated cells, my dears, you have another cell called the goblet cell. And these two cells, they work together. It's as if they are a team. The goblet cell produces mucus. What is mucus? Mucus is a gluey material that comes out of your nose, and it usually comes out more when you have a cold. You know what? So can you understand now what is mucus?
Yes.
Okay. It is green in color. I think I explained it very well. So the mucus comes out of the goblet cells, and the function of the mucus is that it will trap particles in the air that you are breathing. It will trap dust particles. It can trap large bacteria. Okay, so it will trap it. Now, we don't want it to stay there. Who will sweep it away?
Ciliated cell.
The ciliated cell. Okay, so they work together like a team, and they are both specialized in doing that. They don't know how to do anything else. They only do those two things. They produce mucus and they sweep it away. They produce mucus to trap the dust and the particles, and they sweep it away. So these two are examples of specialized cells. They have a special function. They don't know how to do anything else in the world. Okay, is it clear now? Omar, you have a question?
Yes.
Okay, ask me. Omar, what's your question?
خلاص يا مس خلاص. شكرا.
Okay, now if you have a question, ask. Now another example. Now these examples, they are clearly and specifically written in your syllabus, by the way, because you have lots of examples in your body. We will not study all of them. We'll study a few. Now this picture, I hope it's nice and clear. You have the ciliated cell here. You can be asked to label the organelles. This is, of course, clearly the nucleus. The mitochondria is very distinct. You can easily spot a mitochondria because you know by now that it has an outer smooth layer and an inner layer that is folded. So the moment you see an organelle that looks like this, you know that it is the mitochondria. These are the cilia. These are cytoplasmic extensions. Okay, it folds like these. The ciliated cells, they are extensions of the cytoplasm and cell membrane. And you have the mucus produced by the goblet cell. And I think it is nice and clear now. Okay. So this is exactly how it is written in your notes. We'll read it together quickly. Ciliated cells have tiny hair-like projections called cilia, which are always moving. In biology, we sometimes use the word beating. They sweep mucus up the back of the throat, in other words, away from the lungs, because we want to protect the lungs. So it does not block up the lungs or cause lung infection. Mucus is produced by goblet cells. If you have background noise, please mute yourself. Mucus traps dust and particles. Easy and clear. Any questions? If you have any questions, ask me. Okay, this is another again. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll have to mute you all because there is some noise. I don't know how do I do that. Give me a second.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, if you want to unmute yourself, you have the option. Now, another specialized cell that is clearly mentioned in the syllabus is the nerve cell. The nerve cell from the name. Who knows what is the function of the nerve cell?
It carries signals.
Yeah.
Input.
Exactly. Like you said, it is part of the nervous system and it carries nerve impulses from one part of the body to another part of the body. It is very specialized and adapted to do that. This is the only thing it knows how to do. Why? Because it has the shape that will help it to do that, and it has the organelles or the structures that will help it to do that. How does it look like concerning the shape? The nerve cell looks like this. If you notice, it is not a typical animal cell. It is branched. It has lots of branches. You don't have to know the names of the branches, but if you want to, this is your choice. It has a branch that will receive the impulse called the dendrite, and it has a longer branch that will carry the impulse away called the axon. Okay. Not only that, it has lots of mitochondria, because I think you know why by now, because sending messages to different parts of the body is a highly energy consuming process. So they need lots of mitochondria. Also, the extension or the axon that carries the impulses away from the body is surrounded by lots of fat cells. Now, I'll tell you why. This is a more clear picture, okay? I want you to study the labels because they can get you a picture and ask you to label. This is the cell body. And this is the long extension that carries the impulses away. This long extension is called the axon. Sometimes this axon can be several meters long. Okay, imagine there is an impulse being carried from your brain to the toes. So the axon can be several meters long. It is one of the longest cells in the body. Now, because the distance is too long, we want the impulse to travel very quickly. It actually travels in seconds. How is that? Because if you notice the axon here, it is surrounded by yellow colored cells. These yellow colored cells are called Schwann cells. Their name is not as important as their function. These Schwann cells contain lots of fats. Why are they important? Because the electric impulse cannot pass through these fatty cells. So the electric impulse jumps from one exposed part of the axon to the next. And of course, when the impulses jump, they will travel faster or slower?
Faster.
Faster. Okay. So see how this cell is so specialized? This nerve cell is a very good example of specialized cells. It only has one job. It carries impulses, and it is excellent at carrying impulses. No other cell in the body carries impulses such as the nerve cell. Why is it very adapted? Because it has the shape, it has a very distinct shape that helps it to carry out its function, and it has the organelles or the structures that also help it carry out its function. Concerning the shape, as you can see, it is star in shape and it has lots of branches. It has branches called dendrites that receive the impulse, and it has a long branch called the axon that carries the impulse away. This is not present in any cell in your body except the nerve cell. It has lots of mitochondria because it needs energy. It has fat cells called Schwann cells, if you want to know its name, okay? It has fat cells or Schwann cells that covers the axon so that the impulse has no choice except to jump along the axon, and then the impulse will only take 2-3 seconds. It will be very fast in being sent from one part of the body to the other. Yes, Farah, you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. If I may ask you, if you can reteach this part, the part of the axon.
I will, my dear. Hadia, you have a question?
Yes, Miss, can you explain the axon part again?
Okay, if this is all your request, of course I will. Again, how do I study this part? I'm going to throw a nerve cell. This is my nerve cell. And I have a part in the nerve cell that is very long. Okay? For example, if the cell body here is in the brain, and the end of the nerve cell is your toe, your foot. Let's say you are walking, my dear, and you stepped on a very sharp object. Don't you automatically remove your foot? Don't you do that?
Yes.
Seconds. You sometimes don't even realize that it happened. It took a second. Now, how did the impulse travel so quickly from the brain to your foot? It will travel along the axon. The axon is an extension of the nerve cell, okay? From the brain to the foot. Now, these impulses, how did they travel very quickly? Because they did not travel in one straight line. They were actually jumping along the axon. Why did they jump? Because the axon is covered by fat cells. These fat cells are not continuous, as you can see. They are divided like this. And the electric impulse cannot pass through the fat cells. So they had no choice except to jump along the axon. So this jumping made the transmission of the impulse very quick. That's why you remove your foot after just 1 second. Okay? And for your information, you will never in Olevel be asked about the process of, this is called saltatory conduction, and we study it in detail in A2. You just need to know the adaptations of the nerve cell that makes it very good at its function. For O-level, believe me, the only thing you need to know that it has fatty cells, and these fatty cells, they help in nerve conduction. That's it. This is all what you need to know. The process, I explained it because I don't like you to memorize things without understanding. Yes, Abdulrahman, you have a question?
No.
Okay. Now let's read what are the adaptations of the nerve cell? Together, we're reading word by word. So the nerve cell, we know it the function, it carries impulses. Now, how is it adapted? It has 6 features. Let's read them together. It contains branches called dendrites and axons that will send and receive messages. I think 1 is clear. 2, the axon is covered with fatty sheath that insulates the nerve cells and speeds up impulses. I will make things simpler. You can memorize it like this. The axon is covered with fatty cells that speeds up impulses. You can forget insulates the nerve cells. Okay, you will still get the grade for that if you say that the fat cells will help in the transmission of impulses. Number
طب Miss
3.
Manar,
Yes, my dear.
what mean impulses?
Oh, we don't know what are impulses. Messages. The impulse is the electric message. Better now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, number 3, we will study it in the lesson nerve conduction or coordination, but I will also explain. What are neurotransmitters? They contain neurotransmitters. What are neurotransmitters? Neurotransmitters are the chemical messages. They contain the message itself. They contain the chemical that will be sent from one nerve cell to another. This neurotransmitter, this chemical, is not present except in nerve cells. It is not present in red blood cells. It is not present in muscle cells. Okay? So the nerve cells inside their cell bodies here, they contain neurotransmitters. The message that will move. They have the message. Number 4, they have many mitochondria for energy. I think this is easy. Number 5, they have vesicles. We studied what is the function of vesicles. These vesicles are like containers in the cell that carries materials around. In this case, these vesicles, what do they hold? They hold the neurotransmitter or the chemical message. Number 6, they have proteins in their cell membranes which help in the transmission of nerve impulses for active transport. I will explain active transport in the next lesson. In case you forgot, active transport is the transmission of molecules from low concentration to
High
concentration.
using energy. Okay, so in the question, how is the nerve cell adapted to carry out its function? This is a nice long essay question. First, you mention the function. The function, it carries nerve impulses. Number 2, you will mention its adaptations. You don't have to write the 6 adaptations, but at least 4. It has branches to carry the messages. These branches are covered by fatty cells, and these fatty cells help the impulses to travel quickly. They have the chemical message itself inside vesicles, known as neurotransmitter. They have vesicles holding lots of neurotransmitters. They have many mitochondria for energy, and they have proteins in their membranes that help in the transmission by active transport. Okay, I'll take questions. I'll repeat, don't worry. Who, Abdul Rahman, you have a question?
No.
Okay, let me ask each and every one of you. Nariman, you have a question? Selma, my dear, you have a question?
No. Yeah, Miss, can you please re-explain the vesicles?
Okay, I will. Very easy. Vesicles, my dear, in any cell, vesicles are like the container. Remember when we studied the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus? And we said that the endoplasmic reticulum produces the proteins, and then these proteins are carried by vesicles to the Golgi body?
Yes.
So who is the Uber of the cell? Who carries things around inside the cell?
The vesicles.
Exactly. So the vesicle is like the taxi driver, the Uber. It is a pocket that carries things around the cell. It carries proteins, it carries fats, it carries chemicals, it carries neurotransmitter. Clear?
Yes, Miss, thank you.
Welcome, my dear. Omar, you have a question?
مس ينفع حضرتك تشرحي لي رقم 1 تاني؟
Let me see. What is number 1? Number
They
1
contain-
is it contains branches. You have a question? You have a problem with that?
يعني to send يعني ايه to send a receive message مش فاهم.
Okay, look. This is a nerve cell, my dear. A nerve cell carries messages to different parts of the body. If your brain, Omar, wants to send a message to your hand, who will carry the message? The nerve cell. Does your brain actually move and go to your hand? No. The brain will send a message. You know what's a message, my dear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Who will carry the message? The nerve cell. Why is it very good in carrying messages? Because as you can see, it has lots of branches. It has lots of extensions. These extensions, they carry the message from the brain to any other part of the body. Okay, Omar? Let's
Okay.
change the direction. Let's say, Omar, that this is your hand and you touched a sharp object. Don't you feel it? Or a hot object, don't you feel it?
Yes.
Who carried the message from your hand to your brain, telling your brain that this is hot? Who carried the message?
Nerve cell.
The nerve cell. Very good. So the nerve cell is very good at doing that. Why is it very good? Because it has lots of branches. These branches are all over your skin. Your skin has lots of nerve endings. They can feel pain, they can feel touch, they can feel hot, they can feel cold. They take the message and they send it to the brain. And you decide what you will do. You will keep your hand, you will remove your hand. Okay, my dear? Is it clear now?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay? Now let me see who has any other questions. Who has any questions? I will not move on except when everything is clear. If you have any questions,
هو
tell.
الأكسون ده الأكسون هو اللي sends the messages to the brain صح؟
The axon is part of the nerve cell that sends messages around. Yes, they have branches from the cell body that receive the message, and they have an axon, a longer axon that take it to the brain, take it to your leg, take it to any part. Your body, my dear, is connected. Every single part of your body is connected. Who connects all the different parts of the body? Two things: blood, because we will study the hormonal system later in the syllabus, and nerve cells. The blood is a connective tissue. The blood connects all the different parts of the body together, and the blood carries hormones. And your nerve cell, my dear, carries electric impulses. Electricity, they're very fast. Better?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I hope the nerve cell is clear. We studied the red blood cell. The red blood cell, oh no, we didn't. We just introduced it. The red blood cell is another specialized cell, and I think you all know that it carries oxygen. It doesn't do anything else. Look at the shape of the nerves of the red blood cell. Can the red blood cell carry messages, Omar? This question is for you. Can the red blood cell carry messages?
No, because there is no nerve cells.
You are correct, because the
Because there's no branches.
exactly. Now you understand. The red blood cell is a round cell. It has no branches. It has no neurotransmitter. It has no mitochondria. It has missing a lot of things. It cannot carry nerve cells. It cannot carry, electric messages. I cannot teach physics. If I step into a physics class, I will not know what to say. Why? Because I did not study physics. I have very basic information. I don't know how to teach physics. The red blood cell cannot carry nerve impulses because the red blood cell does not have dendrites. It does not have an axon. It does not have the features that will make it able to carry nerve impulses. Yes, Omar? Why is your hand raised? Yes, Hadia. Hadia, you have a question?
Yes, Miss, what was neurotransmitters again?
The chemical message, the message itself, it is just a sophisticated term that describes the message. So the neurotransmitter is the message. Okay. Ask. Okay. I don't get bored of questions. So if you want to ask, ask. Okay. Now the red blood cells carries oxygen. Actually, for your information, the red blood cell is the most numerous cell in the body. You have millions of red blood cells. And the bigger in size you are, the more red blood cells you have because they carry oxygen. Now, if you don't have enough red blood cells and you don't have enough oxygen in your body, you have what disease? Who knows?
Anemia?
Yes. Neriman, you have a question? Why is your hand raised?
No.
Okay, someone else has a question. Let me see who they are. All the Yasin, Abdurrahman, anyone has a question?
Yes. Does the RBCs only transport oxygen or oxygen and CO2?
No, they do transport oxygen and CO2. But
Okay.
for year 10, we only memorize oxygen because CO2 is a very long story. You study it in AS biology. Okay, now going back to the red blood cell. Why is it specialized? Because it has a special shape that will make it very good at carrying oxygen. Number one, the red blood cell, for your information, is an empty cell. It has no nucleus. It has no mitochondria. It has no organelles. It is nearly empty. Can someone explain why it has no organelles? So
To carry the most amount of oxygen.
very good, so that it will carry lots of oxygen. Number two, it only has actually one special protein called what? Who knows?
Hemoglobin?
Hemoglobin.
It is the only cell in the body that contains this protein, HB for short. This is the hemoglobin protein, and this protein is very, very good in binding with the oxygen molecule. So the red blood cell, it is empty. It has no nucleus, no mitochondria, no organelles, nothing, so that we create more space to carry more oxygen. Then what does it contain? It contains hemoglobin, and this hemoglobin is a protein that is specialized in the binding of oxygen. Another feature, red blood cells, as you can see, it is not a typical rectangular cell. It is biconcave. And I need to explain why did they call it biconcave. The red blood cell, if I will look at the red blood cell from side view, I'm looking at the red blood cell from the side, it looks like this. Okay? This curve in physics is called concave. And this concave curve is found on both sides. That is why they called it biconcave. So this is a concave surface, and this is another concave surface on the other side. That is why they described red blood cells as being biconcave. Now, why is this feature important? Who will explain?
To provide a large surface area for transportation.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, if you come to compare this shape, which is biconcave, I hope that is clear now, and that shape, who has more surface area? Who has, in other words, a longer surface or a larger surface? Red blood cell A or red blood cell B?
A.
Okay. Even though they are the same size and they occupy the same space, but A has more surface area. More surface area means it will absorb more oxygen. It will carry more oxygen. Just like the idea of the mitochondria. The inner surface is folded because any foldings increase the surface area so that it carries more, or it does more respiration. Okay, Yasin, what's your question? Yasin, you have a question? Anyone else has a question? A lot of you have your hands raised. If you have a
I
question,
have a question.
tell me.
Is it also biconcave to make it pass easier through vessels?
No, being biconcave increases its surface area. For going into capillaries, it is actually very small. So this is a point on its own. Okay? Red blood cells, they are very small.
Your notes, you wrote that biconcave is only to squeeze into the smallest and tiniest blood vessels.
Yes, my dear, look, it's a point on its own. Let's read it together. This is exactly how it's written, one by one. So the function of the red blood cell, it carries oxygen. How is it adapted? It contains lots of hemoglobin to carry oxygen. Point 2, it is small. Okay, my dear? And this small size will make it able to squeeze inside the tiny blood capillaries. Point 3, this is a separate point. It is biconcave, and because it's biconcave, this increases the surface area, again, to carry more oxygen. And point 4, it has no nucleus and very little organelles. It has no endoplasm.
Provide more space for the oxygen.
Exactly. So there are 4 separate points. Is it clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Now, the 2 other cells or the 3 other cells, and I think you saw this question, this image in paper 2. I want to tell you something. Some of you are still arguing that year 9 notes or year 9 syllabus is not important. If you noticed, paper 2 asks you about year 9 actually. So year 9 cannot be ignored. Year 9 syllabus cannot be ignored. Paper 2 asked most of the questions in paper 2 are over the core. Most of the questions in paper 4 are over the extended or year 10. Okay, so don't ignore, please, the core syllabus. Now, the sperm cell. Who knows what is the sperm cell? What are these? What are these?
Sperms.
These are sperms, and this is a real picture of real sperms under an electron microscope or a high-power light microscope. These are sperms. For those who don't know what are sperms are cells that are produced from the reproductive organs in males, and their function is that they enter the female's body and they reach the egg that is produced by the female, because what do they want to do to this egg?
Fertilize it.
Fertilize.
Exactly. I'm very happy that most of you know that. Like, see, this is a sperm, and this sperm is swimming towards the egg because it wants to enter inside the egg. Why does this happen?
So that the two nucleuses, the egg cell and the sperm cell,
Very good.
they could fuse so that they could fuse.
Perfect. Okay. Some of you know it, but some of you don't. So those who don't, pay attention. When females and males reach maturation, which is at a certain age, females, they produce eggs once every month. This egg, it looks like an egg. That's why we called it an egg. This egg contains half the number of chromosomes, half the numbers of DNA. That is why this cell is called the haploid cell. Also, males, when they reach maturation, they never do, but when they do, their reproductive organs produce sperms. And these sperms also contain half the number of DNA, and they're called haploid. These sperms, these are the sperms, they enter the female's body and they swim towards the egg and they fuse with the egg so that when the sperm releases its nuclei inside the egg and the sperm fuse together to make
a diploid nucleus.
Zygote.
I'm very happy. I'm really, really very happy when you tell me that. I'm just being slow because some of you did not hear this before. When they fuse, they will make the baby. Of course, in biology, they're called diploid zygote. Everything you said is correct. Okay, for those who are seeing and hear that for the first time. Now, these cells are also very specialized. In other words, the sperm cell is very good at its job. It swims very well. It penetrates the egg very well. And we want to know why it is specialized. Why is it very good at its job? Then we will
It has a tail that helps it swim.
Yes, perfect. What else?
Mitochondria, ribosomes, acrosomes.
It has lots of mitochondria that produce energy. And I want you to focus on the head of the sperm. At the tip of the head, it has the what?
Digestive enzyme, acrosome.
Excellent. It has a container called the acrosome. And these acrosomes, they contain digestive enzymes. Perfect. Digestive enzymes. Now, these enzymes, what do they digest?
The membrane of the egg.
Yes. Okay. Now, again, I have to put in consideration that some of you did not hear this before. The sperm, year 10, it swims to the egg. Now, it has a tail that will help it swim. And it has lots of mitochondria to provide it with lots of energy. When it reaches the egg, it will have to digest this outer coating. So how does it do that? It releases enzymes, digestive enzymes. These enzymes will make a small hole in the coating of the egg so that it enters inside the egg. All these...
What's the name of the enzyme?
Digestive enzymes.
Okay.
A collection of enzymes. Of course, they have other sophisticated names. For you, it's just digestive enzymes. Enzymes that digest. Yeah.
But digest
They digest the outer coating of the egg. The egg has an outer jelly coating. It needs to be digested so that the sperm can enter, my dear. Who will digest it? The enzymes that are produced from the sperm. It's like they dissolve this outer coating. Okay? Better?
Okay.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, I hope it's clear for everyone. So let's look at the sperm. And let's read together so we know why is it adapted. Function, it will penetrate the female egg for successful fertilization. Fertilization, in case you don't know, this is when the egg and the sperm fuse. Now the adaptations.
Miss, what's penetrate?
Penetrate, my dear, means to enter. This is the egg and the sperm has to enter. I want to go inside. So how do I go inside? I will dissolve this outer membrane of the egg. How do I dissolve it? I release digestive enzymes. Okay, my dear?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's read together. The tip of the sperm carries an acrosome. This acrosome contains enzymes that will digest the jelly coat of the egg. I hope one is clear. 2. The mid piece, this piece, I mean here, the body contains many mitochondria because we need energy for fertilization. Sperms, they have a tail. Where am I? Sperms have a tail that helps in motion or locomotion. Locomotion means motion. Sperms have a nucleus, of course, but these nucleus, do they have the total number of chromosomes or half the number of chromosomes?
Half, only 23.
Exactly. Why? So that when they fuse with the egg, they will now make the total. So the sperms have a haploid nucleus. What does haploid mean? A nucleus with half the number of chromosomes. So when they fuse, they will create a diploid zygote. And don't worry, number 4, we will explain it in detail in the lesson reproduction. But you should still understand it now. Who has any questions?
Miss,
Yes, my dear. I'm not a miss, I'm a doctor. Tell me.
doctor, can you re-explain number 1, please?
Of course, my dear. I will explain number 1. Look, number 1 says what? This is my sperm. Okay, this is the head of the sperm, and this is the body of the sperm, and this is the tail. This is the head of the sperm. In the head of the sperm, at the tip of the head, there is a container called the acrosome. This acrosome contains digestive enzymes. Why? These digestive enzymes, what do they digest? Who was asking?
They digest the membrane of the egg cell?
Yes, they digest the outer soft membrane of the egg so that the enzyme can enter. We want to enter. So I have to break down the wall. How do I break it down? I release digestive enzymes that will dissolve this wall so that I can go inside and do fertilization. Now, is it clear for whoever asked?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Now, the egg cell. The egg cell, we did mention it while we were speaking. It is produced by the female. When she reaches maturation, she produces 1 egg per month. Now, this is a very nice picture. This is a real picture under a microscope, okay, showing an egg cell, and the sperm actually is penetrating it. I want you to notice the difference in size. The egg cell is much larger than the sperm cell. And this is the jelly coating that we're talking about. Jelly coat. The sperm has to digest this coat so that it enters. This jelly coating, for you, just jelly coat is enough, but if you want to know the official or the biological name, it's called the zona pellucida, but you don't have to know it. Now the egg cell, also it is specialized. What are the specializations? It is surrounded by a soft jelly coat, and this soft jelly coat is very smart. The moment the sperm enters, this jelly coat will become hard. Can someone tell me why it becomes hard?
To prevent
So that
any
no
other
more sperms
sperm.
can enter?
Yes, you also spoke at the same time, but it becomes hard so that I do not allow any more sperm cells to enter. Only 1 sperm will enter. So the sperm, we have lots of sperm fighting over the egg. Do I have a picture here? Millions of sperms. Only 1 will enter. After the first sperm enters, this jelly coating will become hard to prevent any more sperms from entering. So this is a feature. This is only present in the egg cells. So let's read it together. The egg, it is surrounded by a soft jelly coating known as the zona pellucida, and it is soft so that the sperms can easily penetrate. Number 2, after the penetration of the first sperm, the jelly coat will become hard to prevent further penetration by any other sperms, because only 1 sperm can fertilize the egg. Layla, you have a question?
Yes. What if more than 1 sperm enters? Has that ever happened?
If it happens, then it will die. The egg will not survive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Omar, you have a question?
Miss, can you explain this part again?
Okay, sure. Let me finish and then I will explain. Okay, the egg cell contains lots of cytoplasm and it contains lots of fats and proteins. The egg cell is like the mother. The mother is always feeding her child. This egg cell contains lots of fats and lots of proteins in case fertilization is successful. So in case there is successful fertilization, these fats and proteins will be used by the zygote to grow. The fats provide energy and the proteins are important for the growth of the baby. Eggs also, they have a haploid nucleus. I hope you understand what is haploid by now. This is a nucleus with half the number of chromosomes, okay? Because they are waiting for the sperm. The sperm also has the other half. When they fuse, they will form a diploid zygote. Now, Omar, I'll explain it again. Look, my dear. This is the egg. The egg is produced from the female every month. She produces one egg after she reaches a certain age. This egg, Omar, contains a nucleus like any cell in the body. This nucleus is a little bit different because it only contains half the chromosomes. Okay, Omar?
Yes, I will.
Okay. And this egg has a soft coat. It is not the cell membrane. It is something other than the cell membrane. It has a soft jelly coat. Soft jelly coat. Now this egg, Omar, what is it waiting for?
The sperm.
Exactly. It is waiting for the sperm. Either the sperm will arrive or the sperm will not arrive. Let's say the sperm arrives. The sperm entered the female's body and it is swimming to the egg. What happens? The sperm will have to digest this soft jelly coating so that the sperm will enter. The sperm will go inside. When the sperm goes inside, the DNA of the sperms that were already half will fuse with the DNA of the egg to make Omar, to make baby Omar, to make you, to make the zygote. The baby is called the zygote. This baby, half plus half Omar equals what?
1.
1. Omar will contain half the DNA from his mother and half the DNA from his father. This is what happens in sexual reproduction. Your mother's females produces 1 egg per month. The egg contains half the DNA. And fathers produce sperms that also contains half the DNA, half the chromosomes. If the sperm and the egg fuses, we will make the baby. This baby is called the zygote. That is why we are half mother and half father. Omar, is it better?
Yes, thank you.
If you have a specific question, ask me. Okay, I hope it's clear. Other special cells are the muscle cells. All what you need to know in year 10, that muscle cells are important in movement. We have 3 types of muscle cells. You only study their names, okay? You don't study anything other than the names. And we have muscles around your skeletal system called skeletal muscles. We have muscles surrounding your organs called smooth muscles. And we have muscles in your heart called cardiac muscles. These muscles...
Their shapes?
Be familiar with their shapes in case they get a question in paper 2. In case, but muscle cells are advanced material. We study it in human bio, not in Olevel. Okay, so muscle cells, how are they specialized? They have lots of protein fibers. These protein fibers make or help them contract and relax and help them move. Yes, Omar, you have a question? Okay, the last cell that we will talk about today is a specialized plant cell called the root hair cell. And I think you saw a question about the root hair cell in paper 2. Okay. I'll get you a nice picture. This is a root hair cell. This is a very nice clear picture to show you that this is the root of the plant under the microscope. And as you can see, it has lots of microscopic hairs. Now, can you guess why are these microscopic hairs very important? What do they increase? Number 1.
Surface area.
For water absorption.
What do they absorb?
For absorption of
Water and minerals.
water and
From the
minerals.
soil.
Water and minerals. So the root hair cell, as you can see, it has a special shape. It has a cytoplasmic and membrane extension so that it forms microscopic hairs like you can see. Now, this will give it more surface area. Also, they contain lots of mitochondria for energy, and their vacuole is very concentrated. Concentrated means their vacuole contains lots of salts. Why? So that water enters. Water always goes or moves from high concentration to low concentration. When the root hair cell has very little water and lots of salt, then the water will enter. Look at this picture here. I want you to notice the movement of the water. We have water molecules coming now. Yeah, here they are. See, they will enter the root hair cell. They will be absorbed by the root hair cell. And then they will pass cortex cells. This was also in paper 2, until they reach the center of the stem, until they reach the xylem. Very good. So the root hair cell is a specialized cell. Now the root hair cell, is it exposed to the sun?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
So does it do photosynthesis?
No, it's underground.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Does it have any chloroplast?
No.
No.
Okay. Also, it has membrane proteins to absorb mineral ions by active transport. We will study active transport next, but in case you are not sure what it is the transport of materials from, who will tell me?
Low to high concentration.
Good. So the root hair cell, let's read it together. Salma, you have a question?
No, sorry, I raised my hand by mistake.
It's okay, my dear. So the root hair cell absorbs water and mineral ions. How does it do that? Water is absorbed by osmosis. Ions are absorbed by active transport. They have hair-like extensions that increase the surface area. The word surface area is important. They don't have chlorophyll because they don't do photosynthesis. They have lots of mitochondria for energy. They have carrier proteins in their membrane for active transport. And they have a very concentrated vacuole that has very little water so that they can draw in more water by osmosis, in case they ask you. And they have very...
What's the meaning of osmosis?
Okay, osmosis, my dear, means the movement of water, specifically for water, from high to low concentration. And RHC, this is root hair cell. Okay. Anything else? The xylem.
Miss, can you go back 1 second?
Sure. This is in your notes.
Miss, can you repeat point 4?
Okay, point 4. It has carrier proteins for active transport. Let me tell you. This is a zoomed in picture of the cell membrane. Okay, my dear? The cell membrane contains lots of proteins. These proteins are called carrier proteins. And from the name, they carry materials. These materials, they are carried from low concentration to high concentration. In case you don't know what is low concentration, low means little amount. For example, I have here inside the cell, I have lots of salts. And outside the cell, let's say in the soil, I have very little salts. I want them. I will not leave them. So I will force them inside the cell. Forcing material inside the cell from low concentration to high concentration is called active transport. And this needs special carrier proteins in the cell membrane. So the root hair cell contains, or they have those proteins in the cell membrane. They have them. So they can do active transport. They can absorb mineral ions even if they are in very little amounts in the soil. Clear?
Yes.
Who asked me?
Yes.
Okay. Now we will talk about the xylem tissue. By the way, the xylem is a tissue. It's not a cell. The xylem tissue. This is my plant. These are the roots. And this is the flower. Water moves from the soil up to the flower. Who carries the water up to the flower?
The xylem.
Exactly. Tissue known as the xylem. This is its only function. I absorb water and mineral ions dissolved in the water. So it is adapted. How is it adapted? The xylem cells look like this. They are...
It's hollow, right?
Yes, you are very correct. These cells are empty. They have no nucleus. They have no endoplasmic reticulum. They have no mitochondria. They have no ribosome. They have no organelles. They are empty. They are actually in biology considered dead.
Dead cells.
Very good. Not only that, even their end walls, see this? Let me change color. Even this part, it's called an end wall. Even this is not present. So I'm going to use an eraser and erase it because it's not there. And when they removed their end walls, what happened? They created a hollow tube. So these empty cells, they stacked on top of each other and they created a tube. Why? So that the water can move up easily without any obstructions. This cell or this tissue is called the xylem, and it is very specialized. It is the only cell in the plant that looks like that. It is an empty rectangular cell with no nucleus, no organelles, nothing. And they are piled on top of each other to create a hollow tube so that the water can move up the xylem nicely and peacefully with no obstructions. So this is the xylem. The xylem is a tissue made up of xylem vessels or cells that are adapted in the transport of water. Why? Let's read together. They transport water and mineral ions, and this transportation of water is called conduction. And not only that, their walls are very strong, and this gives them an added function. They also provide support. And xylem is a tissue. It's made up of similar cells known as xylem vessels. They have a strong cell wall. We mentioned that. Now let's look here. 1 minute on. They have no nucleus, no organelles, no cytoplasm. They are considered dead. Their end walls are broken down or degenerated. This creates a hollow tube. If the word is in bold, this means it's a keyword, okay? So this will create unobstructed water passage so that the water can move up the plant stem with no problems. Yes, Omar, you have a question?
دكتور انا حاسس ان انا مش فاهم اول اللي هي الحته دي واللي هي الروت هير.
Okay, my dear, no problem. Look, Omar, when you come to study these cells, the best thing to do, Omar, is to draw them. Look, Omar, this is your stem and this is the root of the plant, okay? I'm going to take the root and I'm going to magnify it. The root, my dear, looks like this. See? This is the root. Each one of those microscopic hairs is a cell that looks like this. I will draw it while I'm studying so that I make studying nice and easy. This is one cell. This is my root, and it has lots of cells that look like this, Omar. Can you imagine with me now?
Okay.
Okay, this is the root hair cell. It's a cell that has a special shape. It has an extension. Of course, this extension is very small. And these small extensions, they look like hairs, very thin hairs, like the ones you saw in the picture. And this root hair cell is very good in the absorption of water. It absorbs water and salts. It only does that. It doesn't know how to do anything else. It is specialized in the absorption of water and salts. Why? Because it has the shape that will help it. It has this extension that increases its surface area. It has lots of mitochondria because the absorption of mineral ions needs energy. The vacuole, don't we know that plant cells have a large permanent vacuole? This vacuole has very little water. It is very concentrated so that the water moves from the outside to the inside. When the cell is very concentrated, it will absorb water faster. The cell membrane of the root hair.
يعني الفاكيول ده هو بيساعدها انها تابزورب ووتر a lot.
Yes, because this vacuole is very concentrated. This vacuole has very little water. You will ask me, okay, it is absorbing lots of water. Well, how come it is concentrated? Because the water, when it is absorbed, it will immediately go up. It will be absorbed to go up the plant. So it is absorbing water, but the water absorbed is moving upwards. So it is always starving. It is always thirsty. This root hair cell is always thirsty for water. Okay, Omar?
اوكي.
Okay.
طب ينفع تريبيت اللي هي السيركلز دي؟
Yes. You mean the root hair, the membrane protein?
Yes.
Okay, no problem. Look, this is my root hair cell also. It has a cell wall, of course, like any other plant, but I will focus on the cell membrane. The cell membrane contains lots of proteins. These proteins, they help in the taking in of mineral ions. Salts, yeah. Salts means magnesium, calcium. The plants, not only do they need water, they need magnesium and phosphates and nitrates. Who absorbs them? These membrane proteins in the membrane of the root hair cell. Okay, so the cell membrane of the root hair cell contains proteins called membrane proteins. From the name, they are proteins found in the membrane proteins. What is their function? They don't absorb water, they absorb the salts in the soil. So the water will move in automatically through the root hair cell. It will be absorbed. The salts, they will be taken in by the membrane proteins. So there is something for everything. Better, Omar?
Okay.
Again, this is my root hair cell. It has a long extension. Omar, this extension increases the what?
Increases the
Absorption of what?
water.
Of water. Now the root hair cell absorbs water only, or it absorbs water and salts?
Water and salts.
Very good. Who will absorb the salts?
The protein membrane.
Very good. This is all what I want for you for now. Okay? The root hair cell, does it do photosynthesis?
No.
No. Very good. Why? Because it is under the soil. It is not even exposed to the sun. Okay, my dear? Why am I stressing on these small points? This is for everyone. Because they can ask you, what are the two cells in plants that have no chloroplasts? Who will answer this question?
The root hair cell.
And
Xylem.
excellent. Xylem. Excellent. Okay. So this is
ممكن تقولي الحتة تاني؟
they can ask you a question. What are the plant cells that have no chloroplast? Root hair.
فكرني بكلوروبلاست عشان نسيت.
Chloroplasts are the organelles that absorb sunlight for photosynthesis.
Okay.
Okay, your question.
هي root hair cells وإيه تاني؟
And the xylem, my dear. The xylem that absorbs water up the plant. Okay, when you come to study the xylem, always imagine the stem. The stem carries water from the root up to the plant. This stem is thick and strong, so it provides support because the cell walls are very thick. The cell walls contain cellulose and another structure called lignin. And also the xylem is empty. No organelles, no nucleus, nothing. Only for the transport of water.
Doctor,
Yes.
what is lignin?
Yes, I was just going to focus on that. I'll tell you what is lignin. Lignin is another carbohydrate. You know what's lignin? You know the tree trunk? You know this wooden bark? The tree trunk. You know that? The tree trunk, the wood.
Yes.
Yes.
This is lignin.
Yes.
This is lignin. Can you see how strong it is? Xylem, the xylem is made up of xylem vessels, cells that are stacked on top of each other, and they're empty, and their cell walls are very thick. Their cell walls not only contain cellulose like all plant cells, their cell walls contain cellulose and lignin. What is lignin? Lignin is a carbohydrate that is really, really, really strong. Too much lignin will create the wood barks of trees. And that is why the xylem has two functions. Function number one, it carries water. Function number two, it provides lots of support to the plant because it has very strong cell walls. The cell walls are very strong because the cell wall contains cellulose and lignin. Okay, whoever was asking.
Yes.
Okay. Now, plant cells. Really easy. We took it before. Plant cells, they have another name for your information. We took it last year. It's called the palisade cell. So the palisade cell is just another name for plant cell. Plant cells are very adapted to carry out photosynthesis because, of course, they have lots of chloroplasts. They have a large permanent vacuole that stores water and salts. They are very long plant cells, or the palisade cells. They are long and rectangular, and this also increases the surface area. And they are positioned just below the sun so that they absorb as much sunlight as possible. Okay, let's read together. The palisade plant cells, they are long and columnar because this increases the surface area for more photosynthesis. They have lots of chloroplasts, and I think now you know why, because this absorbs lots of sunlight. They are positioned just below the sun so that they absorb also lots of sunlight. And they are packed right next to each other. You have plant cells that are tightly packed, again, to absorb as much sunlight as possible. Anything hard about the plant cell? Any questions? 1, 2, 3?
No.
Okay.
Can we also mention that they have chlorophyll, the green pigment?
Yes, of course. Chlorophyll and
Miss,
chloroplast are the same thing.
Miss, can you explain number 3 again?
I'm speaking. The chloroplast is the organelle, and inside it you have the pigment, which is the chlorophyll. Yes, my dear. What was your question?
Doctor, can you explain number 3 again?
Number 3, look, I'll tell you number 3. This is the leaf, okay? We will look inside the leaf. We'll take a small section and we will look inside the leaf. Inside the leaf, the cells are arranged in this way. There is an outer layer, and then just below the outer layer, we have palisade cells. These cells are just below the sun so that they absorb as much sunlight as possible. Below these cells, we have other cells called spongy mesophyll. Why are the palisade cells positioned in this area? Because this is the best part. They go to the sun. They look for the sun and they put themselves below the sun so that they absorb as much sunlight as possible. They are right below the upper epidermis. I think your problem is with the word upper epidermis. Upper epidermis is the upper layer. They are just below the upper layer of the leaf so that they are right below the sun. Is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Omar, you have a question? Iman, you have a question?
Yes. Will all these pictures be included in the notes, or do we have to take pictures?
No, don't take any pictures. They're all in the notes.
Okay, thank you.
Your notes are full of pictures, okay? Fine. Now, we did talk about cells, tissues, and organs. Just quick revision. This is all year 9 material. For your information, the year 9 syllabus is longer than the year 10. Okay? Cells, of course, you know that they are the basic unit of life. Similar cells make tissues. Different tissues make organs. And many organs together, of course, create organ systems. Now, I want to stop here. Different tissues make organs. What does this mean? Animals, or your body, we are considered animals. We have different tissues. So we are going to talk about the animal tissues. We have 4 tissues in our body. We have connective tissue. We have muscular tissue. We have nervous tissue. And we have epithelial tissue. I'll tell you what this is now. Okay, connective tissue, from the name, this is tissue that connects different body parts together. And the easiest example for connective tissue is blood. A lot of you think that blood is an organ. Blood is not an organ. Blood is a tissue. And it is a connective tissue because it connects different body parts together. Okay? Another example for connective tissue is cartilage. If you don't know what cartilage is present at the tip of your nose. It's the material that is not a bone and not a muscle. It's cartilage, okay? I'll tell you what cartilage is in school. Muscular tissue, from the name, it is made up of muscle cells that help in movement. Nervous tissue, from the name, it is made up of the nerve cells that we studied in detail. Epithelial tissue is just a biological, sophisticated term. That is another name for skin. Epithelial tissue is skin. And by the way, you have skin that covers your body from the outside, and you also have skin inside. You didn't know that. But the skin inside your body is different from the skin that is found on the outside of the body. It is much more thinner. You have All the organs inside your body, for example, your heart, is covered by a layer to protect it. This layer is the epithelial tissue. Epithelial in biology means to cover. So all the layers that covers your organs from the inside are part of the epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue means any covering. All the organs in your body are covered to protect it. So going back to the animal tissues, where are they written? Oh, they are in the lesson classification. I explained. Well, we also have tissues in plants. What are the tissues that you know about in plants?
Xylem.
Yeah, they're
Palisade, mesophyll.
yes, you are correct. Here, they're written here. So they are here. So the types of tissues in animals, there is an easy word that will help you remember them. Semen. Semen. C for connective tissue. M for muscular tissue. E for epithelial tissue. Let's read it together. Epithelial tissue is made up of epithelial cells, and they are important in covering, where is that? In covering body organs and providing protection. You have to know that all the organs in your body are protected, are covered by a tissue known as epithelial tissue. Example of epithelial ciliated cells covering the trachea. You have lots of examples. Skin is an example of epithelial tissue. You can add that. Nervous tissue is made up of nerve cells. So this is animal tissue. Plant is also an organism that is made up of organs and tissues. Now the tissues found in plants are the xylem, some of you said it and you are correct, phloem, and epidermal tissue. In case you don't know, xylem transports what?
Water.
Minerals.
Phloem transports
Glucose.
sucrose and amino acids. If you are confused, phloem for now is the tissue in the plant that carries food inside the body of the plant. Epidermal tissue, again, it has the same meaning. It is the tissue that covers the different parts of the plant. Like the leaf, you have an upper epidermis and you have a lower epidermis. And then you have the cells in the inside of the leaf. So animals are made up of tissues and plants are made up of tissues. Animal tissues are different from plant tissues. Animal tissues are the semen, connective, muscular, epithelial, and nervous. Plant tissues are the transport tissues, for example, xylem transports water, phloem transports sucrose and amino acids. Epidermal tissue is the tissue that covers the different parts of the plant, like the tissue that covers the upper and the lower parts of the leaf. Different tissues working together make an organ. I'll give you a nice example so you understand what we're trying to say. Let's look at the heart. Do you all agree that the heart is the organ? Is an organ?
Yes.
Yes.
So we all know that the heart is an organ. This heart is made up of the 4 tissues that we studied. The heart includes connective tissue. Of course, the heart is full of blood. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And the heart contains muscular tissue or it doesn't?
It does.
Of course, it contains cardiac muscle. We said semen. The heart is covered by a protective epithelium or not?
Yes.
Yes, so the heart also contains epithelial tissue. And then the last one, do you think that the heart contains nerve cells?
Yes.
Of course, the heart is filled with nerve cells. So that is why the definition of an organ is made up of different tissues. Usually they ask about the organ because you usually don't get it correct. So going back to the levels of organization, the smallest living unit in your body is the cell. Similar cells make what? Tissues. Different tissues make
Organs.
organs. many different organs together, the organs, let's say, we're talking about the digestive system, your stomach and small intestine and large intestine. They are different organs. They are working together to make the digestive system. And then different systems will make the whole organism. Okay? Now, inside the cells, we have special organelles that we studied. Every organelle has a special function. That is why this lesson is called levels of organization, because we study from the smallest structure to the largest structure. We studied the organelles in the animal and the plant cells. These organelles are found inside cells. Similar cells make tissues. Different tissues make what?
Organs.
Organs. Many organs working together, having a particular function, will make a system like the digestive system. And then
An organism.
an organism. This is year 7 or 8 material, actually. But is it clear? I want to focus on organs because they always ask about organs. Organs are made up of different tissues. In animals, the different tissues are the semen, they're written right there, connective, muscular, epithelial, and nervous. And the tissues in a plant are the transport tissues, like the xylem and the phloem and the epidermal tissues. Yes, Dalia, you have a question? Dalia? Okay. Now, this table is very, very easy. Actually, this is year 8 material. It tells you the different organs in the animal and the plant. Some of you, surprisingly, don't know that. If this is a plant, the root is an organ. The stem is an organ. The flower is an organ. The leaf is an organ. Okay? Made up of different tissues. And of course, you know that your heart is an organ. Your eye is an organ. Your stomach is an organ. It is part of the digestive system. So these tables, just read them because these are very easy material and they don't ask you questions on these things, but they still expect you to know it. Okay. Any questions? Dalia, you have a question? Dalia? Okay. In case you don't know what is the immune system, this is the system that protects you from diseases. Okay. You need to know what's the immune system. We'll study it in the lesson immunity. And also arteries and veins. They did ask you about the circulatory system in a question in paper 2. Arteries and veins are organs. They are part of the circulatory system. We're done with the lesson. I just want to make sure we did study the magnification equation in class. I want to go to the very beginning to make sure that we covered everything. We did study animals in detail. Everything is clear. Animals, of course, you know that they have a nervous system and they move and they store carbohydrates as glycogen. Anyone has any questions here? We store carbohydrates in our body in the form of glycogen. Plants, when they store carbohydrates, they store it as what? Starch. Exactly, starch. These are small details, okay? Of course, we don't do photosynthesis. When you're hungry, you don't sit in the sun. When you're hungry, you go to the fridge and you eat. We are consumers. We did talk about the animal cell in detail. Plants, we did talk about plants. Plants, when they store carbohydrates, they store it as starch or sucrose, not glycogen. Yes, Dalia?
Doctor, I'm really sorry. My microphone was not working for the past hour. Anyways, I had a question about the definition of organ. Can I define organ as a group of tissues that performs a specific task?
No.
Or do organs do a variety of tasks?
No, you have to mention in the definition that it is made up of different tissues. You said an organ is a group of tissues. You lose a mark. This is how being precise is very important. These definitions are copy-pasted from the syllabus. Cambridge has its own set of definitions. If you received year 9 notes, you will find at the end of the notes, there are definitions. These definitions are Cambridge definitions. Edexcel has a different set of definitions. So organs are defined as a group of different tissues. You have to say the word different. Maybe this definition would be accepted last year, but for O-level, no. You have to mention the different tissues and you have to give examples to get the full mark. Usually this question will be out of 2 or 3 marks. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So we're done with plant cells. We're just making sure that everything is covered. We talked about the new...
Miss, what is the crude?
Doctor?
Excuse me? Who
What's
has
the meaning of sucrose?
sucrose? Sucrose is a type
Yes.
of sugar. It's like glucose because we have lots of sugars. We have glucose, we have sucrose, we have starch. Plants, they make glucose in photosynthesis. Glucose is converted to sucrose for transport, and it is converted to starch for storage.
Okay, thank you.
And we will
Doctor,
study plants. Yes, my dear.
what is the meaning of multicellular?
Oh, you tell me. Multicellular is an organism that has many cells or one cell?
Many.
Yes. Plants and animals are multicellular. Okay, dear?
I do
Doctor.
understand that plants are multicellular, but how are animals multicellular too?
You are an animal. I am an animal. We are animals. Are we made up of one cell or millions of cells?
Oh, yes, millions.
Okay, so we are multi or unicellular?
Multi.
Yeah. Give me an example of a unicellular organism. Animals or bacteria, for example?
Bacteria.
Okay. Now is it clear?
Yes, thank you.
Doctor,
You're welcome.
what's a nuclear membrane?
What's a nuclear membrane? Okay, this shows me that you were not paying attention in class. Who will tell him what's a nuclear membrane? This is the nuclear membrane. This is the membrane that surrounds the cell and controls what moves in and out of the cell because it is partially permeable. Is it better? Clear? Who was asking? Yes, Dalia.
Yes, doctor, I thought nuclear membrane was the membrane surrounding the nucleus, which made it a eukaryote cell.
Yes, you are correct. What was he asking? Membrane or nuclear membrane?
Nuclear membrane.
Oh, yeah. Nuclear membrane is the nuclear membrane. It's obvious from the name. This is a cell membrane surrounding the cell. Nuclear membrane is the membrane surrounding the nucleus. So maybe I misheard it. Nuclear membrane, correct, is the membrane surrounding the nucleus because the nucleus is surrounded by a membrane, of course. And the cell membrane is the membrane surrounding the cell. Clear for everyone? Okay.
Yes.
Iman, yes, Iman, we finished plants, nucleus.
Miss, we did the xylem tissue, but we didn't do the phloem. Are we gonna do it later, or is it not for us?
We will do it later. Of course, it's important, but we will do it in plants and the lesson plans. Just
Alright.
for now, that the phloem carries sugars and amino acids. That's it. We'll study the
Okay.
structure and the details in the lesson plans.
Thank you.
Welcome. So we're done with nucleus, cytoplasm, cell membrane, ribosomes, mitochondria, vesicles. We compared between animal plant cell. We did talk about the cell wall and the turgor pressure. Chloroplast, if we missed anything, tell me. This is an important table to compare between animals and plants. And here we're talking about the storage of carbohydrates. Plants store starch. Animals don't store starch. Animals store glycogen. Yes, Iman, you have a question?
No, sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay. Now, similarities between both. They both have membranes, cytoplasm. DNA, we did talk about the chloroplast and the mitochondria, and we said that they have their own DNA and their own ribosomes, if you remember. So collectively, they can ask you, where is DNA found? DNA is the small part of the chromosome. Chromosomes are large molecules. They're made up of DNA. So DNA is found in the nucleus, in the chromosomes inside the nucleus, in the chloroplast, in the mitochondria, in the circular DNA in the bacteria, and in the plasmids of bacteria. In case you forgot what are plasmids, these are extra DNA or extra genes found in bacteria, and they make the bacteria antibiotic resistant. I think I explained that. So yeah, we just talked about bacteria. I'm done with the lesson. For year 10, you need to know that you have two types of microscopes. The one that you will see in the lab and an electron microscope. You will never see an electron microscope, unfortunately, in the lab because it's a very expensive one and it's very, very big. We use it to look inside the cell. If you want to show you a picture, I'll show you at the end of the lesson. Okay. We did talk about specialized cells, ciliated cells, goblet cells, nerve cells. Red blood cells.
What's the structure of the goblet cells?
You don't need to know anything except that it is a cell that produces mucus. If you want to,
Okay.
a goblet cell is a longitudinal oval cell that has lots of endoplasmic reticulum and ribosomes. Can you guess why?
To produce the mucus?
Yes, perfect. To produce lots of mucus, yeah. Okay, red blood cells, you need to know, of course, the shape of the nerve blood cell, sperm, egg, fertilization, muscle cells, you need to know they have lots of fibers that help in movement, root hair cell, you saw questions in paper 2 over the root hair cell. Ahmed Zaki, you have a question, my dear? Xylem, plant cell, the levels of organization, the different tissues in animals and plants. Okay, I don't think I forgot anything. Any questions? Anyone has any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, if you want to see an electron microscope, just wait for a minute because I want you to see how it looks like. Let me open a PowerPoint and show you. Where is it? So you know how an electron microscope looks like. I think I have a picture here. Yeah, here. This is an electron microscope. See how big it is? This is very expensive, very sophisticated microscope. You only see it in scientific institutions, like big universities. You will not see it in a school lab. Okay? These electron microscopes, from the name, they use electron beams to look inside the cell. And these are the microscopes that we use to see the inside of the mitochondria, the inside of the chloroplast. The typical light microscope, the one you have in the lab, see? For example, forget all that. The light microscope, you only see the cell from the outside, like the one you have in the lab. We only see the cells from the outside. If I want to look inside the cell, I will have to use this microscope. This one. Okay, so you have light and you have electron. Light microscope, I see the cell from the outside. Electron microscope, I see the cell from the inside. Any questions before you go?
Miss, will you send this PowerPoint on Google Classroom?
I already did.
Okay.
Maybe the one I used here has moving pictures, but the one I sent you is a replica of your notes. And I'll send them for now until you get your material. And what I want you to do, I want you to read. I want you to read what we took today. Read it. I'm not telling you memorize it off by heart. If you want to, go ahead, of course. But read it so you don't forget.
Miss, are you gonna send
Read what?
questions from the classified papers?
We will solve paper 4 tomorrow after I explain classification. We have to finish classification first. That's why I only sent you paper 2. Look, if you want to do questions, if you have the classified, let me tell you, because some of you got it, some of you didn't. 1 minute, your O-level. For now, you can do only paper 2. You can only do paper 2, the lesson I sent you. You cannot do paper 2 classification because we did not take it yet. So, yes, Iman, you have a question?
Yes, is paper 6 identically with the same with year 9?
Yes, if you can do it, do it.
Okay.
Okay, I see that a lot of you are excited and you want homework. Don't worry, I will burden you with lots of homework. Just be patient. Let's finish cells and classification and you will have paper 2 and paper 4 and paper 6 homework. Yes, Iman.
Sorry, it was a mistake.
Ahmed, do you have a question? Okay. Okay, I sent you the PowerPoints for the year 9 cells and year 10. I want you to read them and I want you to make sure that you understand everything. If you have a question, send me on WhatsApp and I'll answer you. Okay, anyone has any questions before I go? Hannah, you have a question?
Yes, Miss, can you send the PDF file of the notes or you can't?
I did. I sent you the lesson that we're covering.
You send it as a PowerPoint, not a PDF file, so I can't print it.
No, you will not be able to print it in both situations. I don't want you to print anything. You will already be getting it with your classified.
Okay, so I'm just going to read the PowerPoints and that's it?
Yes.
Okay.
Until
Okay, thank you.
you will be getting, it will come automatically with the classified. So you will have it very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Hannah, you have a question? Was that you?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Nisreen.
Miss, do I get the year 9 notes and year 10 notes ولا?
No, you get only year 9 notes. The school will provide you with the year 10 notes. If you want it from the bookstore, this is your choice. But the school will provide you with year 10 notes.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Now, I have to go because I have another class in half an hour. If you have any questions, ask me. If you want to solve something, solve paper 2. Leave paper 4 because paper 4 is a combination between lesson 1 and lesson 2. We finished lesson 2. We still did not finish lesson 1. If you want to solve it, no one will stop you. I'll be happy. If you want to solve paper 6, if you were here with me last year and you want to solve paper 6, go ahead. No one will stop you because this will eventually be homework this week. Okay? I have to go now. If you have any questions, send me on WhatsApp. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.